Welcome to Lesson 1 in Unit 23, Celestial Clocks and Calendars. In this lesson, students will work to answer the question, how can we see objects in the sky? In this lesson, students are introduced to the anchoring phenomenon. They group a set of solar system cards according to a variety of categories to learn about objects we see in the sky. They will use a model to observe the reflective nature of objects in the sky, paying attention to how these objects in the sky reflect light rather than emit light. They will start to brainstorm and draft their narrative stories. Students figure out that a system is a collection of objects that interact, and our solar system is composed of the sun, moons, planets, asteroids, and comets. Sometimes we can see the sun, moon, stars, and planets in the sky. The sun and other stars give off their own light. The moon and other planets reflect the light of the sun. Students make connections to the storyline, learning how cultures use telescopes to see objects in the sky more clearly. There are several opportunities for ELA and social studies cross-curricular connections throughout the lesson. You can look for specific standard connections in the Unit 23 Teacher Guide. This lesson will take approximately 3 days to complete. To begin the Engage portion of this lesson, you'll ask students questions about stargazing and finding shapes and patterns in the sky. You'll introduce the anchoring phenomenon for Section 1. For centuries, humans have observed objects in the sky. You'll tell students that you're going to learn about the Ojibwe people. Be sure to see the noted opportunity to attend to equity, should the provided anchoring phenomenon not be compelling for your students. Students will find the anchoring phenomenon more compelling if they can connect to it personally. If you want to change the anchoring phenomenon for your context, keep the following questions in mind. Is it going to be relevant to my students' lives and/or particularly engaging to them? Is it going to motivate students to want to explain what objects we can observe in the sky, what objects in the sky reflect light and emit light, and why some stars are brighter than others? You'll let students know that people from around the world made some discoveries about how things work and also made up stories to explain what they saw. You'll explain that you're soon going to read a book based on the Ojibwe people of North America, but you'll learn a little bit about them first. You'll share with students the Ojibwe are a Native American people, originally and currently living in Canada and northern Midwestern states such as Montana and Minnesota. This map shows where the Ojibwe lived before European settlers arrived in North America. You'll show students images and ask what they notice and wonder. You'll read the book, The Forever Sky. Use the Read Aloud guide to ask students questions while reading the book. Once students have asked questions about the images and reading, you will guide them in creating categories for their questions on the driving question board, using the steps provided in the teacher guide. Once categories are created, guide the class in collapsing them into bigger categories that have closer alignment to the driving questions provided in the unit. Do not answer questions at this time or correct student thinking. They will explore their questions and explain this anchoring phenomenon throughout the unit. For example, if a student says something incorrect, you can say, "How could we figure that out?" You'll tell students that they're going to investigate their questions and learn about objects in the sky. Here are some examples of driving question boards from other K-5 units. They depict the student questions in categories, some along with a drawn model from the unit. Some driving question boards are simple lists of questions or groups of sticky notes posted on chart paper. Teachers and students can manipulate and move around questions and label categories together. You'll then do an activity with solar system cards. For this activity, you'll make a class list of objects students observe in the sky. You'll then put students into 6 groups and give each group a set of solar system cards from the MySci kit. Students will sort the cards into categories based on what they see. Throughout the discussion of the activity, you can post and discuss the system, sun, solar system, and star vocabulary cards. Students should use the Solar System Freyer Model student journal page to take notes during your discussion. For the Explore activity, you'll divide students into 6 groups. Use the reflection, investigation, instructions, and tutorial to prepare the materials and carry out the investigation. You'll tell students the focus of the investigation is to understand how we see objects in the sky. In the Explain portion of the lesson, students will engage in a class discussion. You'll invite them to gather and analyze their observations around the reflection investigation. You'll use the provided questions to guide the discussion around how can we see objects in the sky. The goal of this class discussion is to have students explain how some objects in the sky reflect light and other objects emit light. You will use the discussion to create the Lesson 1 summary chart. From the discussion, students should understand that for thousands of years, people from ancient civilizations studied and made discoveries of how to better see objects using lenses and light. The reflecting telescope is based on this chain of discovery. It uses mirrors that reflect light from the stars, moons, planets, etc. into a person's eye, allowing them to see objects in the sky. During the discussion, you'll play a video about scattering light. You'll also post and discuss the reflective and scattering vocabulary cards. For the Elaborate portion of the lesson, you'll ask students more questions about the challenges of looking at the sky without modern telescopes and how they think telescopes work. You'll have students complete the Reflecting Telescopes student journal page and have them record their takeaways in their Culture Note Catcher student journal page. For the Evaluate portion, you'll have students complete the Light and Vision Model student journal page to help them demonstrate their understanding of the lesson's content. To support student sense-making across this unit, orient them back to the driving question board. Ask, what did we learn about how we can see objects in the sky? And what new questions do we have? By the end of this lesson, students will have used models to explain how we see objects in the sky. In Lesson 2, students will investigate how a star's brightness is determined by its size, intensity, and distance from Earth. For the optional Extend, you can ask students questions about the effects of light pollution and read one of the suggested books. Students can also use the suggested websites to learn how light pollution impacts our daily lives and figure out ways to protect the night sky. For more information about this unit, visit myscipartners.com.